We are with Neil Spencer. Who is you?
I'm a curator in the Egyptian department at the British Museum.
Neil, how the Department of Ancient Egypt here in the British Museum?
There's been Egyptian objects here in the British Museum since 1753, since it opened, and the collection is now over 100,000 objects from ancient and Coptic Egypt. And for that reason there's a special department that deals with the cultures of Egypt and Sudan. So both objects in storage, but also the collections that are on display in the galleries.
Your museum house, there is the famous Rosetta Stone. Tell us what you know its history. Why it's so important for understanding ancient Egypt.
So the Rosetta Stone was discovered in 1798 in northern Egypt, and the reason it's very, very important is that it has an ancient legal text on it, which is written in two Egyptian scripts, hieroglyphic and demotic, but also in Greek. And so this stone, when it came to the British Museum, copies of it were sent around the scholarly world for people to try and decipher the hieroglyphs on the basis of the Greek text. People knew how to speak and to read Greek. So this was the first time there was a key to allow us to decipher the different hieroglyphs, and so that's why the object is so famous, because then over the last 200 years we've been able to translate lots and lots of texts from ancient Egypt and learn about the history, the culture, the religion, and so on.
There are many preserved objects of the Egyptian art. What do you think the major piece that keep and what they have allowed to understand the day life and their social reality of this ancient civilization?
Well, there's many famous pieces from Egypt here in the collection, from the Rosetta Stone through to objects like the colossal statue of Ramses II, but we also have many smaller objects that tell us about daily life in ancient Egypt. So the type of containers and pots people used on their table to eat and drink from. We have fragments of clothing that have survived. We have children's toys and games, but also religious objects that tell us about people's hopes and worries. So there's many different types of objects, not just the big statues, that tell us about ancient Egyptian life.
They come from all over the world to admire your finding, and you are definitely one of the most important museums in existence today. How important is keeping alive the memory of the ancient civilization today? There are ways, beside the classic one, to remember the past to understand this.
I think it's important that we curate these collections, so we preserve them for future generations so they can learn about an ancient civilization as great as Egypt, and also the links that Egypt had with the rest of the world, with Greece, with Rome, with the ancient Near East. And it's very important for us to understand ourselves, to know about these things from the past.
The last question. How can modern technology help you in this job?
We use a whole range of different types of modern scientific methods of analysing objects and learning more about them, and thus about the people who made them. So we can use everything from X-ray to CAT scanning, for instance, mummies. So without unwrapping them, we can find out about the nature of the body inside and any amulets that are inside. We also, when we do excavations in Egypt, we can use special techniques to analyse what's under the ground before you start to excavate. We can do analysis on paintings to look at the type of materials that are being used by the ancient artists and learn about how the paintings were made. So even with objects that have been here for 100, 200, 300 years, we can learn a lot more through these modern scientific techniques.
Another question. From 6 November to March, do you have an exposition on
The Book of the Dead.
Book of the Dead? What is?
So the Book of the Dead is really a series of spells that were placed on a papyrus roll and buried with the dead, and these spells enabled the deceased, the dead person, to get past the dangers of the afterlife and to be accepted into the eternal afterlife, which is what every ancient Egyptian wanted. And these books, some of them are fantastically illustrated with images relating to the spells. Some of them are up to 30 meters in length, and this is the first time many of them will be shown together.
we are in Italy. There is a most famous museum in Torino
Yes,
of
yeah.
the ancient.
The
We are
Museo
in Conc.
Egizio,
Yeah, we are in Concat with us with they
Yes, yes. So we were.
and
There's Egyptian collections all over the world, and the one in Turin is one of the biggest and most important collections. So yes, we work a lot with Egyptologists there. We often borrow or lend objects with them to do exhibitions. And
there
so
is
on.
a collaboration.
Yes, very
within.
much so.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, no,
Thank
pleasure.
you.